The A students always sit in the front row. That's what I would tell my students. Okay, I am so excited about today. This is going to be a really interesting presentation. Tony, I think probably everybody here knows Tony Volante. He's one of the most popular mayors we ever had in Port Hueneme. But that's not why he's here. He's not here because he's a politician. He's here because he's a soldier, an airman. And he's going to be talking about his 40-year career. Can you imagine 40 years? And the wars, when I was researching this, and that he was every war since Korea, Berlin Crisis, Vietnam, Just Cause, and Desert Storm. So he can tell you the history of the Air National Guard just through his own experience.
Move over a little to the left, Beverly. There you go. Okay.
Is this my good side?
Yeah.
Please help me welcome Tony Volante.
Beverly, thank you for that great introduction. I don't know if I deserve it, but before I go on, I wanted to say thank you to Larry, Roberta, I think John Anderson, is it Anderson? Adamson, sorry. And John Shockey, council member, and Beverly, and all the volunteers that have improved this here place here today. I mean, they took it from ground zero and did this whole revamp of this historical museum. And we've got so much, to be thankful for. And he's done a lot on his own time, own money, and same thing with the volunteers. So thank you, Larry, for what you've accomplished here at the museum. I also would like to introduce my colleague, my good friend.
I don't live on my knees,
Colonel Ed Bellion, who had been with the Guard since 1977. And he's going to talk a little bit about what we call a modular airborne firefighting system. And that's one of the real visible activity we do at the Air Guard. And then he's also going to go into a little bit of the history of the Hollywood Guard, as we were called way back in those days. So as you can see some of the pictures here of people that were in the Air Guard, who flew in the Air Guard. So with further ado, I'm going to give you a little journey as to where we started way back in it was in 1636. 1636. That was the first muster of Salem in the Plymouth colony. And this is, went on 140 years later, going to the militia, which, thank you for doing these. I'm going to move pretty quickly. And the Minuteman was born. And as you can see, they got the call at Lexington and Concord during April of 1777. And this service continues to this day. So you can see how far back it was the Guard, the National Guard, and I'll get into the Air Guard as we go along. Now we're going to go, these are the dual roles that we have here at the Air Guard. We're under the federal, under the president. He activates us, and we have and they supplement us to the active duty. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with the active duty forces. And they're all voluntary activations. And we do many rotations. And we're also under the state, under the governor. And the governor calls us out when there's different natural disasters, civil disturbance, wildfires going on. And you can see some of these other things that are some of the responses that the Air Guard has performed. Okay, this was our post-World War I history, and that's the Jenny that we had, 1924, 1927, and the Douglas O-38 is January 31st of 41. So those are the biplanes, the first ones that we had. So as we keep on moving. And here's our history where we go back to Griffith Park Aviation Field. And you can see 134 and 5. Well, I don't have my...
The freeway now runs this way, and this 5 goes this way. And that's the zoo over there.
It's not a Griffith Park Zoo. And the reason we were there near Glendale, because that was the airport. LA didn't come in until 1928. 29 was the first structure. In 1928, the LA City Council approved, let's see, it was 640 acres at the time. So that's where we are now. And
This was the main airport for Los Angeles, the Glendale Airport at that time. No.
okay, we go to the next slide. Okay, this was the early days. We were the 115th Observation Squadron, and what we did mostly was just take pictures of the ground, look at different areas, and we were still at the Griffith Park Airport. You could see the biplane that we had. There's the California National Guard, and that goes way back into those days. Of course, we were still the Army or the National Guard. And I don't know if the next one tells us a little story of. And this is one of the planes that we had. See the body, the observation. They would take pictures on the bottom of that belly of the plane.
This was the last airplane, the first one that was all metal that they flew, and the last one that they flew before being activated for World War II. So this was a late, early 40s, late 30s. And it was an observation airplane, and the primary job was to give the Army information. So, the observation, they'd take pictures. It was basically the generation from the balloon to the airplane to this was actually a real built-for observation airplane. So they would take movies or videos, or not videos, they would actually take still pictures. When they land, they would have to process them just like a film back in the old days, so if you remember film. And then the Army could look at it and see where the emplacements were, where the bad guys were, where the good guys were, that kind of stuff. But it's also always useful for natural disasters. Take a picture of where the dike's broken, where the injuries are, that kind of stuff. So that was the last airplane before World War II started.
Great, thank you, Ed. At the end of the old days, the World War II was post-World War II days, and these are some of the people that flew and were still in the Guard, and then we were mobilized in the 115th Observation, and that's when it went all over. It wasn't just our plane, but they all went to different China, Burma, India, etc. And it's we lost our identity once we did that, flying with the actives, I guess, at that time. So these are some of the. I'm going to talk about Colonel Dennison a little while, what he was instrumental in doing for us. And Eddie and I both know a lot of these people that flew in the observation. And some of them came back into the Guard once we went, once we got back into Van Nuys. So, gonna keep on going. Now we get into an age following the World War II. That's when we had, we flew the P-51, and that was from 1946 to 54. The F-86 came into play and, in 1951, but we didn't get into that until 1955. And now it's the age of the jet age, and here's where it gets bumpy. As we keep going, we are going from a propeller to a jet, and we had to extend the runway in Van Nuys to make room for these jets, and so here we go. Then this is Van Nuys, way back in 1947. That was until 1988, and it's grown in those various years. So then we did, next comes a big change in our world. And we were going, and this is a cultural change. We're going from jets now into transports. You can see the C-97 transport. And then to complicate matters, we get into 1960, and we have our changes in emission. Now we're going from local, where the jets used to fly, maybe in the desert, and in these jets, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. In the jets, it was a one person. I guess I could say one man, because we didn't have women at that time flying. So it was one person aircraft, which was the jet. And then we get into a particular cultural change, where now we have 6 crew members. So these are the 6 flags. That was one squadron that flew the F-86. And you can see that those 6 would have 6 planes. Now we went to one plane, which was the local to worldwide mission, and that's where we now have 6 crew members flying the C-97. Here comes the C-130, and this is another mission change that we went along with. Let's see, I want to get to the. What happened in here now, we're worldwide. We're, I don't know if you have a slide on that to talk about. Yeah, and we went on rotations. When we did rotations back in those days, the Air Guard would be activated to fly these rotations, and we would be there 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer, and then we rotate out, and another unit comes in and starts their rotations. So it's another big change now that we are going all over the world. These are some of the things that we have done. Katrina was a big thing. You know, we took supplies down there, and it's not the only humanitarian that we did. We did so many more, and I don't know if you have the next. Now these are our activations and participation. The Korean War is when I came in, right at the end of the Korean War in 1953. I enlisted in the Air Guard way back in Newark, New Jersey, and that's where I did my basic training. And the reason I joined the Air Guard, to be honest with you, is I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to college. I didn't want to be activated. So I did join at that time. And that was back in Jersey. And when my folks wanted to move out here to California, I then transferred from it was a 108 Fighter Bomber Wing at that time in Jersey to Van Nuys. So I didn't have a break in service. And it was quite interesting because my first deployment, we did the 15 days, it was up to Boise, Idaho. And how they got us up there is they took us up on trains. And that's when we were flying the F-86s and up there, they were training up there in Boise, Idaho. And we came back, and those were quite some great days that we enjoyed. But now, the Berlin crisis, these are all the activations, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and you can read them all as we go down. So we also involved with the Northridge earthquake, and that's what we lived in. I think we lived in Reseda at the time. So, and
You remember the house going like this?
I remember all my fireplace coming apart, my brick fireplace coming apart. So, anyway, those have been our activations and participations. So now, as we go along here, I'm trying to touch on every little thing that we've done with our history. Now is the next big cultural change, moving up here to up to Channel Islands. What happened back in 1984, the city of Los Angeles leased us the property there in Van Nuys. It was a 62-acre parcel, very busy, small plane airport. And what happened is now they were going to raise us to $3 million a year. So we had to find a new home. And there were three possible areas that we looked at. One was Plant 42 in Palmdale, one was out at March Air Force Base, and the other one was out here in Ventura. And we selected this area out here. So we bought, let's see, it was 210 acres of land for $5 million. And that's adjacent now to Point Magoo, as many of you probably know where the Air Guard is.
The green area is the part we own, and that's the Magoo big runway. And that's all of Magoo's, the Navy bases over there. So all we did was put a taxiway to their runway and build our own base. So, and if you've ever worked with the Navy, that's a good thing to do.
And I used to come out here because I was working on getting our building set. In 1988, we moved our operations out here. And then the other logistics and support areas came in 1990, and we closed the base in Van Nuys. Now working, trying to get, I remember coming out here. As a matter of fact, I think, Ed, you came out, we used to come out to the Chamber of Commerce meetings that they used to have out here. So we get to know the people and everything else. And first person I met was the former mayor, Doral Wright. And then after that was Orvine Carpenter and Bob Anderson, who was the chief of police at the time. So we got to know all of those folks, and they liked the Air Guard coming up here because at first the people in Camarillo didn't want us up here because they thought we were bringing these big bombers up here. And I had to go out and talk to people in Leisure Village and explain to them that our planes were quiet. And what we would do is we'd have a C-130 flying above, and they're all in a room like this, and I asked them, who heard any of our planes that were flying above? No one did. No one did. I said, we had a C-130 flying above your complex here, and nobody, figured, okay. Anyway, our best social work was to bring busloads of people from Camarillo down into the base, and they became our friends, and that was great. So this is our history now out here. These are the buildings. I know that doesn't mean too much, but to you, but these are all various buildings that we have now there at the Channel Islands, and you could if you can read that, it's like an active Air Force base. And that's what we were. We were technicians, AGRs, and I think maybe the next one, or a couple down, yeah, let's go to that. So right now, our wing commander is Brigadier General Dave Bakos. He made his star, and what happened with him, what happens now, our wing is only an 06 position, which is a colonel position. And so therefore he has to leave, and we're going to be getting a new commander that will, I don't know, one of these days we'll have a change of command out there for a new commander. This is our strength that we have out there. And if you notice, you know, we have, if you look at the bottom figure, full-time manning technicians, 285. That's what I was. That's what Ed was. Even though we were traditional guardsmen, we worked out there full-time on the civil service. And we wore uniforms. We wore the uniforms just like the active duty folks did. And we still have those out there at the Van Nuys. So we're the day-to-day operations, you know, for the Air Guard. Then we get the other folks that come in on weekends. And
That's the big number.
yeah, the big number on the top, authorized personnel. However, we have 1,202, and they're still recruiting, but we're at a pretty good strength, 96.5. And as you know, a lot of the guards beyond the guard wall, they've lost people, etc. But we stayed pretty steady in what we had done up there. Now, these are some of the missions that we have. The ALSI is our airlift folks that go out and prepare all our runways. So when we get out there, we're able to operate. We have our drops. These are the drops that, whether it's we go to do humanitarian drops, etc. We do that at bases that we have to go to. We have medical evacuations. We have an air medical evacuation squadron that handle a lot of these, and you can see the other folks up on the top. Those are some of the missions now that we are able to accomplish. We can be on active duty. When we deploy, we set up our own activation system and everything else, so we can get these folks off the base and to wherever they're going to be, whether it's Afghanistan, etc. These are some of the expeditionary. What we used to do is take units and activate them. We don't do that anymore. Now, what we do is we take just certain individuals, maybe 5 from the security police or food service, or we don't send that whole squadron to wherever we are going. So it's now, that's why we, with the expeditionary combat. So if we want to send the maintenance, few maintenance to Afghanistan, we do that. And we have our crews that go out there and fly, resupply, do whatever they have to do in Afghanistan or any of these other places. So we set up, and we're shoulder to shoulder with the active Air Force. It's just what we do. It's just been outstanding. We have our petroleum oil folks. These are the onesies and twosies that we deploy, and we're ready. We're ready to do whatever the call is. The C-130J. I got to tell you, this is a great airplane. When we came out here, we built a hangar for the C-17. That's what the command wanted, C-17s. Well, it didn't happen. And I know that John belongs, and that we belong to this regional defense partnership. And I went back to sort of lobby for these C-130Js, and we finally got them. We used to have 60 C-97s. However, we have been downsized, and we have 8 of these C-130s that could do a great job in whatever they are called to do. And that's what we're using for firefighting nowadays. And let's see, where else are we? So this is it. And what I'm going to do now is turn it over to my pilot friend who flies these modular airborne firefighting, these planes. And he's been doing that for many years. Hey.
I get to talk about the fun stuff. Just before we go, but Tony was responsible for getting the new airplanes. And up until the point where we got the new airplanes, we were flying airplanes that were built in 1962. Some of them were 40 years old. And if you want to stay in business in the military as they're downsizing, you better have the most modern equipment and you better be qualified in it. So the fact that Tony and John and the folks were very instrumental in getting new airplanes for that guard base is the reason that guard base is still there. Otherwise, we could have easily in 95 and after the bracks could have easily been either changed the mission or the base would have gone away. Not a good thing. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about something. Ventura County, why do we bring value to Ventura County? You know, people say, well, what can you do with an airplane with an earthquake? What can you do with an airplane with a fire? Well, we actually do things with a fire. There's plenty of ways of doing it, and it's also the highest visibility that we get in Ventura County because we're doing something in Ventura County. I mean, if you have a fighter airplane and you go shoot somebody down who's a bad guy out over the ocean, fine. But if you fight a fire in Ventura County, then, you know, there's a lot of positive feedback. It's very good for recruiting. It's good for good neighbor policies, etc. So this is our favorite mission for working in the community and in the state. And there are only 4 units that fly the firefighting mission, and of those 4, there's 3 in the Guard and 1 in the Air Force Reserve. And of course, we're one of the 4, and we were the originator. And this young man here, he won a prize for his photo here. It was on a bunch of magazines, and like any other photographer, you know, it's like publish or perish. Well, he got the publish. And this picture was actually in the Department of Defense, the Secretary's office behind his desk, about the size of that screen. And so he was very proud about that. And this is an old picture from the Van Nuys days of the very early program. So let me talk a little bit about, Modular Airborne Firefighting System. We call it MAFS, M-A-F-F-S. Modular because it was built with the idea that you could put it on any C-130 and use it. The reality was we didn't really do that very often. We usually dedicated airplanes. And it's airborne firefighting system, and I'll show you some pictures of it. If I go the right direction. Yeah, just give me that thing. I can see the thing moving around. Yeah, I'm trying not to talk with my hands. Okay, this picture was actually a picture of the week on one of the big magazines. I think it was Newsweek, and it actually depicts a fire in Stanislaus County up in the Northern California area. It was taken by a commercial photographer in a helicopter. It was probably in our way at this time, but hopefully it wasn't too close. That's what you're doing. You're basically dropping fire retardant not on the fire, but normally in advance of the fire. It's a retardant. It's very rarely do you drop directly on the fire. And that's what the unit is inside the airplane. It's actually made up of these long, now this was the original concept, was these all came apart. There were 4 tanks, then all of this stuff. And then this thing, it goes out the back of the door of the airplane, and that's what the retardant goes out. 2 giant tubes. The bottom left picture is what it looks like if you're right behind the airplane when they're down. And the bottom right picture is what it looks like if you're looking out the door when the fire retardant goes out. Just one big seltzer bottle, if you want to think of it that way. About 3,000 gallons of retardant. That's what it looks like if you make a painting, a heroic painting. It was really actually a really fun mission. I must admit, you get to fly only done in daylight. You get to fly down low where things go by fast, so you feel like you're really doing something. and you're actually putting fires out instead of just throwing practice bundles or paratroopers out the back of the airplane. So it's a really positive mission with lots of positive feedback. And everybody says, well, is it dangerous? Well, it's not really dangerous. It's challenging. This is the new system that they bought. So we have that firefighting system. They built it in Van Nuys era in the 70s, and they decided that it was going to be modular. So it's five easy pieces. You take a forklift, you can put it on the airplane one piece at a time, and you got to put this Rube Goldberg thing back together because you got all these pipes and stuff you got to connect. Well, you know, over the years, using it for about 40 years, we figured out, you know, there's a better way to cut this cake. So we came up with, I mean we, because I was part of the group that actually thought, you know, we got to do a better job. But we found out that the best thing we could do with those 5 easy pieces was we made a trailer for it, and just like this has a trailer, we put it on a trailer so that when you want to load it, instead of taking 10 hours to load the thing and get it all work, you just slid it on, and then it was much easier to load. So when we came up with the concept for the new one, we said, well, let's just build the damn thing so it's one piece. One easy piece would be good, and we'll just roll it on. And when we build it, let's build a trailer that fits it. So we don't have to go jury rig some other trailer, you know, some other loading device. Because the reality was, we never took it apart in the real firework thing, and the fact that it was modular was useless. It didn't matter. The fact that it was on a trailer was better. So now, this is the new system. Fits on the new airplane. So you get new airplanes, you might as well get a new firefighting system, right? It's like you buy a new gun, you want a new bullet. So this was the system. And the way they changed it was, has the big seltzer bottle here. This is the front of it. It slides into the airplane. So this is up by the cockpit. That's out by the back. Instead of having to go out the door, because when you put the door down, you put those 2 tubes out, you add a lot of drag to the airplane, which in pilot parlance, that means the airplane doesn't go through the air so well. So rather than have that extra drag when you're flying down low and it's hot and it's usually not a good thing, let's eliminate some of that drag. So instead of it going out the back door, they put it out the side door, which is the parachute door. So we're only going to go out the side, and it goes out through this thing. Looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It's anyway, you can imagine. Now, that is also computer operated now. So the old system, you could use multiple, say you could drop twice with the system, and then you had to go and get resupplied or refill it. With the new system, computer generated, you can adjust not only how much goes out, but you can have multiple drops. So if there's a lot of small little fires, you can actually hit one and then go to the next one and the next one. So you have multiple drops. So it's much more versatile, and it's also easier to load. So that was the new system, the new firefighting system for us.
But we also, if you remember, we lobbied for that new system. Our EP did that.
That's right. That our regional partnership, they were very involved in getting this. Congressman Gallagher, and the new system with the new airplane really makes this much more functional. And we're the only ones flying the J model with this new system, but all of the firefighting units now use this new onboard system, new advanced system. And you can see it comes out in a single stream, and it just comes out one door, but it's the left door, but it doesn't really matter. You can't tell the difference. But the back of the plane is buttoned up, so it's much safer. You don't have to put the more drag on the airplane. So it's a safer, better system that only took us 35 years to get it. But I mean, it's got all the advantages of having done this thing from scratch. Now, you know the tanker pilots that you see out, the regular commercial drops, they just drop by gravity. They open the belly of the airplane and it comes down and drops. We couldn't do that with our airplanes because the government doesn't like you cutting up their airplanes for firefighting when you have other missions. So this thing does not impact our mission. When we take that system off, it's just like every other C-130 on the planet for airdrops, for support, for... And now...
Maybe just one quick thing about the Forest Service and how...
Yeah, get into the politics of it. We don't own those units. Those units are actually bought by the Department of Defense, but they belong to the Forest Service. So the Forest Service, we can be activated 2 ways. Just like where California, the governor can actually activate the 2 units that we have here in Channel Islands because it's California. But for the big fires, it's federal, and that's the Forest Service, and they own these units. So we always work with the Forest Service. We do the briefing, and it would take 2 hours and lots of. But just know that we don't just go fight fires. You don't say, hey, Ed, there's a fire over in Camarillo. Oh, I'll get my airplane. We don't do that. What we do is we work through the Forest Service or the California Department of Forestry. We always work with their control. They tell us where to drop. They provide the spotter airplanes that go out and tell us where to drop. So it's not like, it's not like a fire truck and we just roll up and put out it. But it's an entire system to get to do that. And sometimes politically, it's hard to get the balls rolling because the commercial tankers want to all be making money and they don't want us to be activated. But when there's $100,000 at a shot or $1 million at a shot, houses burning down, sometimes it needs to get the same rolling. And our committee or the congressmen and all of the local elected officials work very hard to make sure that this process of getting us activated has been shortened or briefed. So anyway, it's been successful. It's not always successful, but. And then I just want to briefly talk about the Hollywood Guard. Somehow we got into this name, and it didn't start when we came here, and it didn't start at Van Nuys. It actually started back in 1924 when they put them at Griffith Park, and this was the first airplane movie. And many of the guys who flew the biplanes for the Guard, when you're going out looking for pilots and you're making a movie about biplanes, where are you going to find them? Well, a lot of the Guard, the 115th Guard guys were the original pilots in many of those early movies. With Wings was one of the first, that was the first Academy Award winner, I think. Anyway, so since then, I don't know if I have a slide here that says it, but the key to real estate is location, 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 right? The same thing for the Hollywood Guard. The secret was location, location, location. Oh, by the way, this is this young lieutenant colonel with hair, Tony Volante. And he's meeting here with Victor Bone, another Italian, so you know there's nothing good coming from this. So they're probably cooking up something. And that is part of it. If you look in the back here, you can see the Bob Hope show. Well, being at Van Nuys and being a big airplane group, we got involved just because of location, location, location. If you had to do something like the Bob Hope launch, the Bob Hope show, what airport are you going to do it at? They do it out of Van Nuys many times. And that's Bob Hope there giving a golf lesson to the commanders. But anyway, Tony, I don't know, did you get any money out of that, Tony?
No.
Here's actually a picture of one of our airplanes when we had the C-97s before the C-130s. They're actually taking the Bob Hope show out of the U.S. over to the Philippines, I believe. And that's a picture. And that also indicates, you can see that front row, that's the crew members for one airplane. So the old fighters had one guy, one airplane. We had a minimum crew of 6, and if you had celebrities on board, of course, you probably had 7, 8, 9 people on the trip.
More load masters.
Yeah, more load masters. So anyway, that's the airplane behind them. So, so location, location, location. And because of our location, our front gate was used in movies. This one up here, it says United States Air Force, Travis Air Force Base. Well, that's really the Van Nuys base. The airplanes were available, so if they wanted the interior shots of airplanes, location, we were there. And also if they needed some background of airplanes or they had a big ramp space, so a lot of it was brought in. We also got involved in actually making the pictures. Yeah, Jim.
Was that Hugh Hefner in a bathrobe?
Yes, that's Hugh Hefner and Chevy Chase. I don't know what this movie's from. I don't know if it ever made it, on the silver screen or not. But it was not unusual when we worked at Van Nuys to come to the base and see strange things on the ramp, like spaceships, or because they looked for a military ramp, with a hangar-type background. And those early Star Treks and stuff, they'd have things parked on the ramp, and you think, what the heck is that? So anyway, yeah, location was great. And we also, these are actually our P-51s that were painted for this movie, Fighter Squadron, with Edmund O'Brien and Robert Stack. And they're supposed to be the Germans in there. So the German fighters in the movie are actually played by the Air Guard airplanes. I'm not sure they do that today, but anyway. These are some of the other movies with Radon and Teddy. We actually had used our C-130s were in, and our crews flew in it. Silence of the Lambs, we operated as they actually filmed our airplane from their airplane, from a movie airplane. Stripes was done on our ramp, so if you ever watch Stripes again, you'll see our airplanes parked there, people walking across the ramp, and a lot of the guys on the ramp were extras, were our own folks. And The Perfect Storm was filmed actually here, part of it here at the facility at Channel Islands. So, and we continue. We supported Air Force One, even though we didn't really participate. The base was used to launch the airplanes that participated in Air Force One. So it continues even to today. So, also, many of our people were involved. Anybody remember the Bob Cummings show? Back in,
Love that Bob.
Oh, and Love That Bob, that's right. This is Bob Cummings, and this was our commander at the time of the fighters. His name was General Shoup, and his wife was an actress, and she was the secretary on the Bob Cummings show. So there was a very close proximity of people involved in the Hollywood scene. And here he is, actually, his picture. This is Bob Cummings and a bunch of the fighter pilots. And he was an honorary lieutenant colonel, and actually one of his shows, his shows, he's got some nephews, I don't know if you remember it. The nephew goes out to the base and they recruit him and he gets to go out in the airplane. So anyway, that were the people. You know, other personalities, Mr. Ed, which I used to hate. Because because my name is Ed. But anyway, this is Milner from Route 66. He's there it's actually in the C-130 cockpit. Over here you have Lindsay Wagner, who's the $6 billion woman or whatever she was. Bionic woman. Oh yeah, it was a $6 million man. She did worth a lot more than him. And some of the people that were in the Guard, we actually had the 4 preps enlisted. About 2 years ago we had a party and one of the 4 preps was still there and they enlisted so they wouldn't get drafted, and then after they were enlisted in the Guard, they got activated. So they told some interesting stories on that. And over here, this is Wonder Woman in an Air Force uniform. She jumped off every building on the base, you know. You remember Wonder Woman, she's always jumping off something, you know, so anyway. And on the right there, you might recognize the Beeve. He was actually in services for several years. And there's the 4 preps being enlisted in the Guard. So that's our journey's end. So that sums it up. The only thing I want to leave you with is question and answers. So I'm going to ask the first question. Would this be politically correct enough to get by today? The one on the left is actually, they were doing some other stuff, and this was kind of they shot that, and then they put Guard, of course, in. But all the legs were members of our wing. And over here on the right, they used to have Miss Van Nuys days and all these other things and air shows. And there was always we have bunches of pictures of the women in the beauty contest. So anyway, so we're going to open up to questions. You can ask Tony anything but political.
Now wait a second. Before we get started, you see why I wanted Ed to get into this? And the thing is, as a pilot, flying a C-130 with maps, well aware of it. I just have to say one thing. I did take a trip when I was up in Boise, Idaho. They took me up. I was up in Boise, Idaho, and I had a chance to go into one of the planes that was going to do the drop, and the wing commander said, "Tony, I'm going to take you up and do a drop with us." And this was after breakfast. And I said, "Really?" Anyway, I did. I stood behind the co-pilot as we were going up there, or the pilot. And they went down, and they were doing all these maneuvers. And I got to tell you, I kept it. I didn't lose it at all. But I did have that opportunity to be able to go and see what they do. It's a fascinating operations that we do here at the base. So Eddie's good with the Hollywood Guard, and I remember the Hollywood Guard, and then we had some problems with one of the wing commanders that came in and said, no more, no more Hollywood Guard type thing. But we got it back.
Hey.
Got a question in the corner. Go ahead.
I did. After you went from a modular to singular retardant container, did you change maps to SAPs?
No, we kept it because that was our call sign too. And, our call sign was maps, because when you work with the Forest Service, you have to have a call sign so they know who you are. So our call sign would be your number and maps. And we didn't, all the other tankers are tanker and their number. Big painted numbers on the tails and stuff. So no, we never want to change the name. There were people that said it should be X maps or whatever, maps 2. Look, it's just maps. It's modular in the sense that it's 2 pieces and it fits on the airplane and it fills all the other categories. So no, we never did change it. But it's a well-known word now, so we don't want to change it because it has its identity. If you ever hear maps again, you'll know there's only 8 of those units in the United States. So the operating airplanes that have them on it have the tail. I don't know, I probably have a picture right here back. Okay, you can see this isn't one of ours, but this is number 8. But so his call sign would be MAS 8. So all the other aircraft would know who he is. And the reason they put the big number on it is so that the lead pilot who's out there who's directing everybody, he can just look down and see the tanker and see the tail and he knows the number. So he knows when you say MAS 8 and he looks down and it's got 6 on it, that ain't the one I'm talking to. I'm talking to the one over there. So it's part of the whole system. But it works. And the big tankers, the other tankers, they have big numbers on them too. Like Tanker 21 is a C-130 out of, say, Fresno or someplace. His call sign is Tanker 21. So anyway, any other questions? It's got to be.
So is the capacity the same, more or less?
It's a little bit more with the new system, and it does a better job of regulating the density. So you have about 2,800 gallons in the old system, about 3,000 gallons in this system. And this system does a better job of putting out a variation of thickness. Some fires you want a nice long spread with just a little bit of retardant, like if it's a grass fire. And if you're in heavy vegetation, say, like someplace up where it's thick, chaparral type stuff, you want a more dense concentration of the retardant, so you would use a different setting. And that's all adjustable with the computer. It used to be by pressure, and pressure was kind of like a flip a coin type of deal. Now it's done, you can actually adjust that pinnacle that it comes out of for the density that you want. So.
But by the way, that frost check that he is talking about is what it's called frost check. It's earth growing up, it affects the ground, covers it, everything like that. Like he said, we built these tanks. That could be Van Nuys or even at Channel Islands. We come in, refuel, and we take off. So it's, what do we drop it in 4 seconds or 6 seconds?
Yeah, it's 6, 12 seconds. It depends on your setting. And the color on it, by the way, is put in there.
Yeah.
Because we want to see where it is on the ground. If you just drop water, 2 things happen. One, it evaporates, so you got to either drop it right on the fire or you're just watering the lawn. It doesn't do any good. So you want a retardant, it's got to have a couple of properties. It's got to be sticky. It's like pancake batter, so it sticks to the vegetation. And it's got to have color on it so that not only the spotter airplane, but we can see. So if you want to make a continuous run of this retardant, like on a big grass fire or something, you want to see where the stuff starts and stops. So they put the color in. And it also has a fertilizer element in there. So, overall, the only thing is, there's some limitations. You don't want to drop it on water. It's not good for fish, that kind of stuff. But that's all taken into account when the drops are done. But when you're coming in to drop, you're going to be at about 100 feet above the highest obstacle. So that's pretty low with a big airplane. And it's usually hot, and you're going slow. So it's kind of one of those dances where you got to be very careful when you get in there that you can get out of there with the retardant still on board, because that's 3,000 gallons at about 10 pounds. That's like 30,000 pounds of retardant. which makes the airplane operate very differently because it's heavy. So when you go in to drop, you want to be able to see where you're going to drop. The lead airplane is going to tell you where to drop, and you're going to usually continue a line that somebody else has dropped. So you want to be able to see where that last retardant drop was. So he might say, okay, I mean, when they fight a fire, they really don't put fires out anymore, you know, in brush fires. They surround them till they give up. Is what happens. So, and, you know, so if there's a fire going this way, nobody gets in front of it. Fire trucks don't, the firemen don't, and the airplanes don't in most cases. Plus, if the fire's going this way, then the wind is going this way, and the smoke is going this way, and you can't drop in smoke because you can't see anything. So what you'll do is you'll be on the edges, on the sides, you'll be moving along the edges to drive that fire to someplace there, whether it's already got retardant, or there's a rock outcropping, or there's an ocean, Pacific, we haven't burnt an island down yet. So the great fire break that's out there. So the whole game is to make sure that you keep this thing going. The retardant with color in it, you can see it, and that's kind of the game. I mean, it's a very interesting mission. Sir, Tim.
I've been told by some of your people down there that it's kind of a thrill when you drop it, all of a sudden you start rising real quick like.
Yes, because you're going to take 30,000 pounds and push it out the back of the airplane, and suddenly the airplane is much lighter. So the airplane, of course, doesn't know it's just lighter, it just wants to fly up. And the biggest challenge is, what Tony saw, is when you're coming over a hill, a lot of times you're going to be dropping downhill. We always drop downhill, you never drop uphill, for obvious reasons. So you're going to go downhill. Well, if you get to the top, and we've had a couple of cases of this, and you push that 30,000 pounds, especially with the old system, which used to have both tubes out the back, it would push the nose of the airplane down.
Oh.
So here you are, you're coming over the hill, and as you go down, you push the button, and now the nose, instead of the airplane rising, the airplane wants to do this, because it's like a big vector, it's like a push on the back of the tail. So those were exciting drives, because you'd be coming right up and you'd start it right at the top, and as you went down, you had to anticipate the fact that the nose is going to go down, and you're going to see a lot more of the ground in the window, and that's not usually a good thing. So, you know, but the airplane suddenly becomes super light. You know, it's like, especially if you dock the whole load of 30,000 pounds, that's like a whole cargo load of stuff. So then the airplanes are much better on the escape. The critical thing is, what happens if it doesn't go off when you push the button? You don't want to be going down to into some area where you can't get out with the 30,000 pounds still on there. So we have an emergency drop sequence, but it's, you know, it's a sequence. You got to do something, emergency, and then you're not going to be fighting fires. So very often we plan to make sure you're going downhill and you can get out even if you're fully loaded. So it's exciting.
I just raised the question, are you heading downwind when you're doing that as well?
Actually, the wind is, it doesn't matter. The wind is, I mean, the wind determines pretty much where the fire's going, and we don't, no, we consider the crosswind or the drop. And usually there is a crosswind, because if there's a fire over here and you're over here, the fire will be dragging the air in. So there's usually a fire wind that comes into the fire. So if you're going to drop, the old joke is don't drop on the black. Don't drop the retardant where it's already black, because it's not going to do any good, you know? So you always, and the lead airplane will usually anticipate this. So say this is the fire here, we're going to drop here. We're going to drop far enough outside so that if it's a strong wind, it will bring the retardant up against the fire line. If you drop and it all goes into the black, they don't ask you to come back. You know, it's like, anyway. But yeah, the wind is more dependent on the fire, John, than it is on like the prevailing winds.
Just when you said the cresting and ridge through the tailwind, you're going to have a downdraft.
Oh yeah, that's true. The nice thing is the Herky-Bird, C-130, is very, very responsive. It has turboprop engines, so you get instant power when you want it. It has that huge tail and big elevators because it was built to go slow. Its real job is, you know, tactical airlift. It's supposed to land in dirt. It's supposed to be used short runways. To do that, you have to put in all the airplane stuff, the big tail, with the big rudder, the big ailerons. It's slower in real life. I mean, its whole life it pays the penalty of having that big tail. But when you want to fly slow, it's got lots of responses, because just like your car, if you're going slow, you need more turn on your wheel to turn someplace. So anyway, it's built to go slow, and that's perfect for airdrop, and it's perfect for firefighting, because you don't want to go flying by the fire. So you have these big controls, and the airplane is very maneuverable for a big airplane, much more so than like an airliner would be.
What would be a common airspeed when you're dropping?
Airspeed would be, you'd vary it by how much flaps you put down, but if you went to max slow, it would be about 120
Well,
knots, which is like 130 miles an hour. And max would be like 150 miles an hour. So it's in that, we have a chart that tells you based on your weight and what your flap settings are, what speed you're going to drop at. But it's in the 120 to 160 range, I would say. Which is fun because the airplane you're following, the little spotter airplane, he can only go like 200 miles an hour, you know, because he's got, you know, like a twin Barron or something. So you get this big honker, giant airplane, four big fans of freedom there, and he looks out his window, and there's this big giant airplane right behind him, or fairly close behind him, and he's figuring, he's doing 160 miles an hour, and he's right behind me. And I'm doing like 175 miles an hour. So there's this little game, we're playing formation with him, but he's looking out his window thinking, I hope he sees me, and we're thinking, I hope he can go faster. So we always have it built so that when you finish the drop, he goes one way, and you go the other way, because you don't want to have to be worried about him going 180 miles an hour, and you're trying to go to 200. So, yeah, it's interesting, it's fun, it's a great mission, but, you know, you got all kinds of dealings in there, and you got helicopters. And the Forest Service does all of the sorting out. It keeps the helicopters over here, and it keeps the other tankers over here, and it keeps the lead airplanes over here. And they talk to each other, and we're kind of like momentary fire trucks. We come in, we drop, we go away. We go back, get some more retardant, come back. Those other guys are there constantly. You know, the guy's standing over the fire with his airplane, who's up there. He's watching the whole program. He's like the director. We're just kind of like visiting for a few minutes. So, any other questions?
The smoke doesn't affect the engines at all?
The smoke, we avoid the smoke for visibility purposes, but there have been occasions where guys have flown through inadvertently, through like you know, when a fire starts, if it gets new stuff, it puts up a big brown, dark colored smoke. So we've had one case years ago where guys flew through smoke, but it was superheated air too, and it did affect the engines. In fact, one of the engines quit, which is not good. So we avoid the smoke because we know, one, we can't see, and two, that if there's superheated air in there going through the jet engine, that's not good. So yes, smoke will definitely affect, and we avoid it as much as possible. The biggest problem for us too is the first days the smoke is really contained. I mean, you can really see where it is. But then after a fire's been going for a while, you get just the smoke in the air, you know, the visibility, just like on the highways. Suddenly you can't see 3 miles. You can only see. Then the smoke is affecting us in the mission because sometimes we can't fight the fire. They'll say, well, we need a tanker in here. And they'll say, well, I can't get there because I can't see to get there. And I can't fly unless I have visibility because you can't do instrument flying on firefighting. They don't like that. Sir?
I did the P3 for about 12 years.
Oh, okay.
And I think we had about the same engine, the J58.
Yeah, we had the Dash 7s on the old ones, the new ones are totally different.
We had a lot of trouble with the gearboxes and props flying off into the wind. I was on one once, we lost about 30 feet of wing in the engine and the fire. We flew back to Philadelphia sideways, nice airplane.
Wow.
Yeah, we come on final sideways, and it was really neat. So I'm just wondering if you guys experienced a lot of J-box, gearbox.
I don't know of any that.
No?
No, but we may have had a different engine slightly. Did you have the 3 or 4-bladed prop on that?
The other question I had was, seriously, I grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey, so we might have been close neighbors. I went to Rutgers for a while.
I went to Florida.
I went to Manhattan.
I mean, that had nothing with flying. Anyway, my last flight was at age 52, and I was fully qualified, but they're easing some of the old guys out, you know, just nobody was fired, just little games played. So I had to leave. Now, I'm only 76 now, and mentally, I can get in that damn airplane and do the same job right now. I don't forget things. So with your political connections,
It can't help anybody, he's gonna help me, and threw me out, for Pete's sake.
See John. See Jim.
All right, you done?
Very good. Can we thank him for wonderful? All right, we don't get any support from the city, and so we do depend on your donations. So we always pass the hat at this point in. We also have, if anybody is interested, we have books and videos and CDs out in the other room if you want to buy something like The History of Port Hueneme or Helen Brandt talking about the pig farm. We got all kinds of different things. So please come back. We have programs almost every 3 times a month, and they're all different, and we always have different people. So we're meeting some of you for the very first time. If you have any questions about wanting to know what's coming up, and you're on Facebook, our page is every day we have some kind of picture from one of these things and a little blurb about the history of Port Hueneme. So you might want to, if you're a Facebook person, that's the place to go. All right, so now I want your money. Thank you, Jim.
Hey, and if you have the Smithsonian Channel, there's an absolutely great program about the Hercules on that they show every 2 weeks. It's brilliant.
Really?
Smithsonian Channel. It's happening. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Be good now, brother, thanks.
So if I asked you if you were going to
Hey, how are you, gentlemen?